Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Austin the Stash, joined by the one and only Melanie Wilkinson.
Good morning.
Good morning for the week that was. And let me tell you, the week happened. It's still going on.
We're only halfway through, I guess. But, yes. It was a big week.
It was a big week.
Yeah, and I think today we're going to kind of focus on county business.
Uh-huh.
Because most everything the big things that happened had to do with York County.
For sure.
So
it's a week. It's kind of, the idea is like last week everyone's still getting back into the swing of things. This week things happen.
Yeah, it was get back to business.
Get back to real business.
So for starters, we had the oath of office was administered for York County Commissioner.
Yes.
We had 2 positions up in the election cycle last year. And so taking the oath of office were Joe Burgess and also Leroy Ott. Mm-hmm. Now, Leroy was appointed earlier last year to fulfill the term of Woody Ziegler, who passed away while he was in office.
Gotcha.
And then Leroy ran for election, won in the primary, and then ultimately won that seat. So he'll continue to serve. Now, Joe is a really interesting story.
Joe is it is a very interesting story because it feels like when someone loses their fantasy football league is what it feels like.
Why?
So there you've heard of all of these stories about like the loser, the person who gets last place in the fantasy football league has to like be punished. You've never heard of this?
No,
my gosh.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So for reference, there was a league in Omaha, a fantasy football league, where if you got last place, the person who won the league got to pick a tattoo for you. And that has since sparked a number of different things where it's like there's a punishment for being last. Okay. And one of the jokes online is that one of the punishments, there's things like you have to spend 24 hours at an IHOP, but for every pancake you eat, that takes an hour off. Okay. So that's like the idea here.
Okay. Okay.
Someone has come up with the idea that if you get last in your fantasy football league, you have to run for a public office.
Oh.
And you have to like actually run for it.
You have to do it.
You have to do it. It's the kind of thing where like you don't expect to win, but like you need to put in enough effort to show that like, hey, you're trying to win this office.
Correct.
This is why I'm...
Okay, all right. Now I see where you're going.
Yes.
Now,
Joe is 19?
18.
He's 18 years old.
18 years old. Now, he didn't lose anything. He actually wanted to serve. So this is interesting. It was 2 days. Okay, so he graduated from York High School 2 days after... or 2 weeks after the primary election was held. So he was still in high school.
That's crazy.
When he won the primary election to be county board member.
We held that forum.
Yes.
And he was a part of it.
Yes.
And I've told this story in the past, but I don't know who was in charge of setting people, like in what order. He was placed next to the oldest person we could find.
Yes, and I've been doing some research. I've been trying, and so have other people. And the way it looks, I think he's the youngest person to be elected to as a county commissioner or a county supervisor in the state of Nebraska's history.
Wow.
I can't find any that are younger. We've found 2. 18-year-olds that have been elected and have served at that age as county official in 2 other states.
Okay.
But as far as in Nebraska, I don't think so.
That's incredible.
I mean, for certain, he's the youngest in York County history. But he's looks like he's off and running. They took the oath of office, and he's been in the courthouse helping commissioners with different things. I asked him how this is going to work with his college schedule because he's a freshman at University of Nebraska in Lincoln, studying chemical engineering.
Sounds like he's a smart kid.
Yes, apparently he's very bright.
Sounds like a good person to have in charge of stuff.
Well, and he's worked it out with his schedule, and he was pretty matter of fact because he said, "Well, everybody else on the board has a job. What difference did it be?"
That's true.
And that's true. They all do. So
I don't know. There is a difference between when I think about the difference between college student and job. Like, I remember when I graduated college and I got my first real job. I remember getting home at 5 o'clock and going, "What do I do now?" Because in college there was always homework to be done. There were extracurricular stuff to do. Whereas his extracurricular is just being
a county commissioner.
That's wild. What a statement.
I know.
That's crazy. I mean, good for him.
He's very enthusiastic about it, and which is great. And I think it was really well put. So Commissioner Jack Sykes then, he's retired from the board. He didn't seek re-election. So they honored him on the 7th, which was his last meeting. Jack, he served decades as a police officer for the city of York. And then after he retired from his job, he ran for county commissioner, and he's served 12 years already.
Wow.
To me, that seems wild. That much time has gone on already. He was just said, 3 terms. That's a lot. He wanted to just enjoy his retirement now.
Sure. Yeah.
But he said he feels like Joe is going to be a great person to sit in that seat because he goes, we need some young blood.
Sure.
He goes, it's going to bring a different perspective, to this situation. Yeah, there's a learning curve, but there is for everybody that comes into those positions. So we've got some new members, and
Fantastic.
Here we go.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck to him. Hope he can manage the schedule, and I think he'll do great.
I do too.
Very nice. Speaking of people being honored and awards and that sort of stuff, a couple of people got some pretty cool awards.
Well, the York County Sheriff's Department had their annual recognition event. It's something new that they've started in the last couple of years. So they look back on the year and they honor certain members of their department, the deputies, corrections. They recognize them for efforts that happened over the past year. And 2 of these are just quite something.
Really?
So Sergeant Taylor Samick was given the Life Saving Award for 2024.
Okay.
This story is it's really eye-opening. He was the first on the scene of a medical call.
Okay.
Which they hear. And so law enforcement will go also to these calls, even though fire and rescue is coming.
Sure.
He must have been in the vicinity. It was here in York. And there was an older woman who had just had surgery in the last few days. She was at home recuperating. And her daughter called and for help, saying that she was unresponsive and appeared to be dying, not able to breathe and such. And so anyway, Taylor went inside, and because of the training that they go through, he suspected that she was having an opioid overdose just from the pain medication. She was having some sort of response to that, so he administered Narcan, which they carry with them all the time because of this happens, and then the presence
frequently this happens,
and the presence of fentanyl. Out in the world, you don't know where it's at, so they have it with them all the time. And he administered Narcan, and then CPR until York Fire and Rescue could get there, and then they took over from there. But he was recognized for that because it was that immediate response that probably saved her life.
Wow.
And she's alive, and
That's incredible.
She made it. So that was neat that they recognized him for that. But it also shows how our law enforcement are trained in a lot more ways than just making an arrest and filling out paperwork.
I mean, when it comes to police officers and sheriff's department, they've got a lot of jobs.
They really do.
They really have a ton of jobs.
And the way that the world, I mean, did we ever? I think the first time I'd ever even heard of Narcan was maybe 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a new thing.
Yeah, it was really, it started up, I remember hearing more about it when I was in college, which would have been 2017.
Yeah,
that's when it really started to.
And now it's available to all of them, and they have it. And I know that he's been recognized before too for administering it out in the field to other deputies who were exposed to fentanyl, things like that. They're all trained to do it. So I just thought that was something neat to mention. Then there is, what was that other award called? It was the
Exceptional Duty Award.
Exceptional Duty Award. Okay, this one was given to Deputy Brandon Huber.
Okay.
Listen to this one.
All right, ready for it.
So he's on regular duty. He's out on Interstate 80. And he stopped somebody for speeding. While he was doing this speeding stop, he got this feeling that something was up. There was some criminal activity was afoot. So, probable cause search of the vehicle, he decided was warranted, and it was performed. Guess what he found in that vehicle?
I'm scared to find out.
Well, it resulted in a federal case. So,
whoa. Okay.
Okay, so during that search, he found 1,310 blank checks.
Whoa.
392 personal checks that belonged to people, fraudulent ID documents, and then the checks he noticed appeared to have been diverted from the U.S. Postal Service and then stolen from account owners. Well, there were 294 different account holders from 6 different states affected. Jeez. And the total sum of all the checks was just over $222,000.
Whoa!
So he contacted the United States Postal Service Inspection Unit. He turned over all this evidence to them. They've credited his work for preventing thousands and thousands of dollars worth of fraud. Also, there was something about they found these keys to they're like a universal key that they can use for lock boxes that the Postal Service. So apparently he's been stealing mail.
Yeah.
But he was also involved in all this scam
no wonder
activity.
I didn't get the birthday check from my grandparents.
You didn't?
This year.
Oh.
This is exactly
why. It was
why.
in a car, and it's probably impounded. Well, the federal government has it now.
Well, I'll be talking to the federal government about that $25.
Okay, well, the guy, he pleaded no contest to everything, and he's awaiting sentencing. He'll probably get some pretty hefty time because
I would imagine so.
You don't mess with the U.S. mail.
You don't mess with the mail.
And then when you have all of these people being, they were gonna lose a lot of money. And God only knows how much. I mean, it could have been in the millions by the time he was done doing what he was gonna do.
Yeah.
So anyway, Deputy Huber, good work.
Absolutely. Fantastic work.
So,
that's wonderful.
So you never know. That interstate, you don't know what's going up and down.
There's a lot going up and down that interstate, and
thousands,
that's why
I'm driving around with boxes of thousands of personal checks.
Who uses
and stolen
checks
mail
these days anyway?
Well, I haven't written a check in a while, but
you've received checks?
Yeah.
I don't think that legitimately the only time that let me think back. My daycare ladies just switched over to like an online
all electronic,
thing, all electronic thing. So for a while I was doing checks and that was one check a week. But now I don't have.
The only reason
I don't even know where my checkbook is.
Well, the only reason that I'm still dealing with checks business wise, personal stuff I don't.
Yeah.
But when you use the service for electronic and all that, then they take such a percentage out there.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to switch here shortly, but...
Yeah. But, you're going to hold out for as long as you can. I get it.
Yeah, I know. I'm still a little old school that way. So, speaking of old...
Oh, yeah?
Let's talk about Henderson Heritage Park.
Let's talk about it.
You ever been there?
I have been there.
It's cool,
isn't it?
It is
really cool. Henderson Heritage Park is very, very cool.
You know the story behind it?
I do not.
Okay, so Henderson was created, the town itself was created when these families fled Russia. Well, they're German, Prussian, Russian. They were Mennonites that kept changing their location because of persecution and their anti-war status.
Okay.
So they finally fled and they came over to America. And when they got here, they all settled in the Henderson area.
Okay.
Well, they got here right before the winter started. And
tough.
Well, yeah. And there was quite a few of them, I think about 80 people.
Okay.
Well, so what they did was they built this big building. They called it the immigrant house, and they all lived in there together for the winter just to survive.
Yeah.
Some of them made it, some of them didn't.
Sure.
And then when spring came, they started building houses and farms and homesteading. And so to commemorate the fact that they lived in this immigrant house and this rich culture that has come, that you only really find in Henderson. You just really don't find it anywhere else in Nebraska. This culture, their food, their history, their language. I've heard older people speak who live in Henderson that are descendants. They speak a certain kind of German.
Really?
It's not the German like we learned in high school.
Sure.
It's a different twist on that language. And they try to teach their family members too this language so they can at least speak some of it. Otherwise, it's probably just going to go away with them.
Yeah.
Kind of like their recipes too.
Yes.
Have you ever had that Veronica? Have you ever had it?
I haven't had it. But that's the thing that everyone talks about. The Henderson Heritage Days, I write their ad every single year.
Yeah.
And every year it talks about the food. It talks about how they have someone who teaches that language.
Yes.
And it's really interesting place, Henderson is.
And the next time so they have the smorgasbord.
Yeah.
That they do just this authentic food. You really need to check that out.
All right.
Now here's the thing: don't be eating any big meals before you go.
Okay.
Because this food's rich.
Yeah. Very rich. Very heavy.
It's delicious.
Nice.
No idea how they make it. They had some cooking classes a while back, and I'm not a descendant of this nationality, but I thought, oh my God, I want to learn how to make this.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful. Anyhow, back to Heritage Park.
Yes. Okay.
So they built a replica of the immigrant house. They, you've seen it. They brought in the barn, the house, the school, the church, everything is there. And it's been really neat over the years to watch that place develop. I remember when the barn was moved into town. I mean, oh God, I'm really dating myself and showing my age. But well, now they are embarking on, and they're almost done actually, with a really cool addition. They're building a building for a gathering spot.
Okay.
It'll hold a little over 100 people, which is nice because outside of the school and the churches, there really isn't anything that size in Henderson or that part of the county to use for bigger events of that size. It's not huge, but it's not small either.
Yeah.
So
it'll host weddings.
Yeah, then this will allow them to have more activities and events all year long.
Yeah.
Because it'll have heat.
Yeah.
And it'll have air.
Yeah. Super important things.
Right. And also it can encourage more bus tours throughout the year. Bus tours are great because, they bring people in from all over the place. And that'll be really good for the park and for the town.
Yeah. Well,
they've raised Henderson is very, very good about private donations for projects that they want to undertake. They want to do something in that town. They say we need $500,000, and really probably in about a week or two, they'll probably have it.
Wow.
It's just always been that way.
Just that the town loves the town.
It's just always been that way. And so they've raised, I think, about $350,000 already. So they've started, the building's already up. They just need to finish.
Yeah.
Fundraising is continuing because they'll need to furnish it and put in some technology and things like that.
Sure.
Well, they needed just some more money, about $175,000, $177,000 to be exact, to just finish because they've been doing it in phases. That's all they needed to get to the finish line. So they applied for a York County Visitors Improvement Grant. We've talked about that before, how that works. And so the Visitors Bureau brought that forward to the county board this last week, and they approved it. So it'll be a one-time payment of $177,000 that'll go, and now they can wrap up
They can
their
finish
building
up all
project.
that
And then, like I said, they're still taking donations for furniture, screens, projection,
sure.
things that they'll need for the inside. But the building will be finished, so that's exciting.
Yeah,
They'll be able
very
to open that up.
exciting.
So that's the other last thing I was going to talk about for the week.
Very nice. Well, the week that was indeed, wasn't it?
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
There was a
lot
lot
of really
happening.
good news. A lot of really good news.
Yeah, and this week, and then there'll be more. I've got some really cool stuff cooking for next week too.
All right.
So,
Very excited to hear
okay.
it. So, Melanie Wilkinson, you
Hey.
can find all of her stuff at justmelaniew.com. And
Yep.
you can find the other weeks that were
that were
weeks
that were
here on coolradionow.com. Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you. Have a good week.